Breaking news for you. A brand new report from Democrats on the House Oversight Committee. They say it shows China spent more than $5.5 million at Donald Trump's properties while he was in office.
The investigation started while Trump was in office. It's now come to this point where this report has been released.
This report is based on documents from Trump's former accounting firm, and they show that his properties, the properties that he owns and did not divest before taking office, received payments in the millions of dollars from 20 different foreign countries.
Now, what we know is that the Constitution says a president cannot accept money, payments, gifts of any kind from a foreign government or monarch without getting the express consent of Congress.
Donald Trump sort of bucked the trend and bucked norms of his predecessors by refusing to divest his properties and his financial assets.
Is there any record that Donald Trump, the business entities associated with his family business, went to Congress and asked for some sort of pass?
There's no record of that at all, and in fact, it never happened.
Shocker. Donald Trump did not ask Congress for permission as the Constitution requires, and Trump never divested his businesses. Well, while none of this may be surprising, it is still significant. Washington Post headline report, Trump businesses received $7.8 million in foreign payments during presidency. Quote, these payments were made while these governments were promoting specific foreign policy goals with the Trump administration and even at times with President Trump himself, and as they were requesting specific actions from the United States to advance their own national policy objectives, according to the 155-page report released Thursday. The report notes there was a correlation in policy outcomes. For example, during the first year of the Trump administration, several Chinese banks came under scrutiny for their ties to North Korea. Republicans urged the Trump administration to sanction these banks as part of an effort to halt North Korea's nuclear program. But Donald Trump chose not to sanction the Chinese banks. One of them was a tenant of Trump Tower. The report says no U.S. president besides Trump has, quote, ever come so close to brazenly ignoring the Foreign Emoluments Clause. That's the part of the Constitution that bars federal officials, including the president, from accepting money or gifts from foreign governments without permission from Congress. Congress has been strict about this part of the Constitution, even going back to the presidency of Abraham Lincoln. Here's MSNBC.
Jamie Raskin, who's the ranking member of the Democratic Oversight Committee, specifically talked about an instance where then President Lincoln was given a gift by a foreign government. These were tangible gifts. I believe one of them was an elephant tusk and another thing. And instead of just keeping these gifts for himself, which he wanted to, he actually went to Congress to ask for permission if it would be okay for him to keep it. And Congress actually told him no. And the State Department actually took possession of these gifts. So there was nothing like that as it relates to Donald Trump.
In fact, according to former members of Congress, President Trump lobbied lawmakers himself on behalf of Russia and China at the very time Trump's businesses were profiting from both countries.
Vladimir Putin, I'm going to tell you, President Xi of China, they're licking their chops at the idea of another Donald Trump term. Because I sat in the Oval Office once when Donald Trump begged a group of us to pull China's ZTE out of the sanctions list from the National Defense Authorization Act because he made a personal promise to President Xi because Xi asked him nicely on the phone. I mean, this is the kind of leader, of the greatest country in the world that we're looking at reinstating.
So Donald Trump was pushing foreign policies that went against his own political party at a time Trump's businesses were raking in millions from the foreign countries involved. Now, again, none of this may seem or feel like news, but keep in mind, House Republicans are currently trying to impeach President Biden because Biden's son Hunter served on the boards of foreign-owned companies and Hunter Biden profited from those foreign entities. There's no proof that President Biden himself changed policies or got any money from Hunter Biden's work. Still, since Republicans care so deeply about U.S. enemies possibly having financial influence over a family in the White House, maybe the GOP could join the investigation into the Trump family. Oh, that's right. Congressional Republicans don't investigate the Trumps. By the way, a former aide to Republican House Speaker John Boehner said all of this malfeasance by the Trumps in the new report could have been predicted.
Anybody who spent any time in Washington, if you would go down to went down to the Trump Hotel, it was the Star Wars bar of people trying to influence the Trump White House. Now, was it completely stupid for him to allow this appearance of people influencing him by having a business and not divesting? Of course. But I'm frankly surprised it's not more.
Frankly, surprised it's not more, said the Republican. Indeed, and maybe the fact it was only $7.8 million is a testament to the fact that Donald Trump is not a very good businessman, even when he's trying to make money off of the White House. Anyway, in response to the report, Eric Trump, one of the president's sons, says all of the Trump Organization profits made from foreign governments went directly back to the U.S. Treasury. Eric Trump provided no evidence to back up that claim. And James Comer, the Republican chairman leading the impeachment effort of President Biden, said President Trump had legitimate businesses and that Democrats continued their obsession with former President Trump. In any case, politically, the report about the Trump Organization could blunt any impact of the Biden investigation on moderate and independent voters. A lot of people who are not actively engaged in politics may just throw up their hands and say, well, everybody sells out, so we will not decide the election based on any of this. And to the extent that inoculates President Biden from Hunter Biden's issues, well, that could help the Democrats. In the meantime, the report could also be a boost for Republican Chris Christie as he hammers away at the president in the Republican presidential primaries. And lately, the former New Jersey Governor Christie has been delivering his most cutting attacks on Trump so far.
He caused a riot on Capitol Hill. He'll burn America to the ground to help himself.
He will burn America to the ground. Christie is talking about Donald Trump, and this attack, the harshest of the campaign, is part of a $1 million ad blitz in New Hampshire, the biggest expenditure so far in this race.
Some people say I should drop out of this race. Really? I'm the only one saying Donald Trump is a liar. He pits Americans against each other. His Christmas message to anyone who disagrees with him? Rotten hell.
The Christie attack amounts to a political Hail Mary. He is slightly behind Nikki Haley in New Hampshire and trailing Donald Trump in the Granite State by double digits. New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu, who is backing Haley, wants Christie to drop out and endorse her.
So if Chris is true to his message about defeating Trump, you know, he'll understand that the voters are coming. I think he's going to make the right decision eventually, and ensure that this is a two-person race where if Trump can't get 50% of the vote, which he cannot in New Hampshire, then he's in trouble. And finally, we can start moving forward as a party, bringing everyone together.
But Haley's criticism of Trump has been soft, and she said she is open to being Trump's running mate. That has disgusted Chris Christie, who says Trump is a threat to democracy.
I'm not willing to acquiesce to someone who embarrasses us. I'm not willing to acquiesce to someone who makes us seem small all around the world. I'm not willing to acquiesce to someone who is the worst of our public discourse. And the greatest thing about this country is you want to try to change your country, you stand up and you go to work and you try to make it better and you set an example and you fight for the things you believe in. And that's what I'm doing every day up here and what I'm going to continue to do because I love this country too much for us to give up on it. And I'm certainly not going to give in to him.
Look for Chris Christie to pounce on the latest reports about Trump's corruption, and never mind the Republican presidential primaries. If Trump wins the nomination, his constitutional violations will be front and center in the general election. Americans may not care to follow the various battles in court, but a lot of people might take notice when considering the prospects of the Trump family selling access and selling the White House yet again. By the way, one of Donald Trump's most vocal supporters in Congress, Marjorie Taylor Greene, is blaming her own son for her alleged corruption.
I think what was reported was actually related to my son's account.
Check out that video at the link below. I'm David Shuster. Thanks for joining us.